We have in the studio today Cheech Marin, actor, musician, comedian, and activist. Best known as part of the comedy act Cheech and Chong, Cheech Marin is recognized today as a preeminent advocate for Chicano art. The Cheech Marin Center for Chicano Art and Culture of the Riverside Art Museum, located in Riverside, California, will celebrate its one-year anniversary on June 18th. Again, thank you for being on the Hello, My Name is Dana podcast.
Okay.
And I know you're best known, part of your 70s and 80s comedy act Cheech and Chong, and your career as a comedian, actor, Grammy winner, and I can go on and on.
Please do.
I would, but I only got a little time here, so that's the second time I interview you. We're gonna have to talk about that. But I really wanted to talk to you today about this incredible museum, your collection of Latino artwork, Chicano art, at the Riverside, the Cheech Marin Chicano and Art Cultural in Riverside. I know you're going to be celebrating a one-year anniversary in June on the 18th.
How about that?
Yeah, I mean that's exciting. Just give me a little bit, when you first started collecting art, how all this, came together.
Well, I've always collected something throughout my life, whether it's baseball cards or buttons or stamps or anything. So I had a proclivity to collect, and then I got educated in art from a very early age. I had a group of cousins that we were kind of bright kids, and we assigned each other. We got assigned by the head cousin topics to learn about, and then bring the information back to the group. And I got assigned art and as a general subject, and so how do you learn about art? I don't know. So I went to the library and started taking out all the art books and looking at them. Every Saturday I would go down there, and they'd bring out all the art books they had, and I would, oh, that's Picasso, that's Rembrandt, that's Michelangelo, okay. And so I was intrigued, because I like to see the images and what they meant, and how they progressed, and I always wanted to be sophisticated. I wanted to be able to go into a cocktail party in New York and say, "Oh, that's a very nice Miro you have there." That was his other period, wasn't it?
Right.
But it happened. So
yeah.
and so that's cool. But I was always, but I started going to museums, at the same time, because you have to see paintings in person to really get the true effect. And so this started a space in my life that I carved out for that all the time, and I kept learning. So when I finally got enough money to actually buy art, that's when I discovered these Chicano painters. They were already discovered, but not in a big way. So I saw what they were doing, because they were all either art school and or university trained, so they were studying as much world art as they were anything else, and they started forming their own kind of school of art, the Chicano school, that was very sophisticated and naive at the same time, and they combined those two elements, and it was a totally unique school of art. And then kept progressing and progressing and kept going and going and going, and it changed generations. Another generation of artists came in, and eventually they kind of wanted to have their own name too. They didn't know if they were Chicanos or they were Latinx or Latinx or whatever they are. But anyways, I was collecting the art, and I just amassed this big collection because I was like the perfect storm. I knew what the art was. I had money collected, and I had a celebrity in order to proselytize for it, So one thing led to another, and I started touring, putting together tours for this art, and they were very successful. And so, after doing that for like over 40 years, I come to the part where you go, well, what am I going to do with this collection? I can't keep it under the bed anymore, or in the closet. And that's when I got this offer from the city of Riverside to give them the collection in order, and they would give me the building to house it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I guess it was a total, out of the blue kind of moment. And wow, okay. I didn't understand what they were saying at first. I thought they wanted me to buy a museum, like why I'm doing okay. I don't know if I'm doing museum rich, but no, we want to give you the museum for the collection.
Yeah, it was,
Okay.
it's amazing. I had the opportunity last year to go, and when I first walked in the door, the first that hit me, all the vibrant colors and
Yeah.
this amazing 26-foot piece of art that extends from the balcony, right down into the lobby area.
Mhm.
And it, it was just amazing. How did you feel when you first walked in and all your work was there on display?
Well, it was, the fulfillment of a dream that I didn't really ever dare dreaming.
Yeah,
Yeah, people used to come, you should have your own museum. Oh, yeah, I should have a jet plane too, but I don't got either. So, it was, and this thing fell out of the sky, and the thing you learn going on after you've been doing this a lot of times because the collection is played in over 50 different museums, which is unheard of for a private
yeah,
collection.
yeah,
Uh, the thing that you hone is your instinct. When something presents itself, you kind of judge it immediately and find out how it fits, and you either walk through the door or you don't.
yeah.
And my instinct has always taught me if I see something I feel is true, to walk through the door, and that's what happened.
Yeah, it was, I was reading an article by, I believe her name is Jennifer Gonzalez, professor of history and art. And she said one of the greatest things about the Cheech is that it highlights an individual's collection and brings a lot of work together, rarely, which is rarely shown in one place.
Yeah,
And while I was looking at each painting myself, it's very powerful. Each like artist just draws you in.
yeah.
Is that how you felt when you started collecting or getting some of these artists and art
Oh,
together?
yeah. Because of the thing about the early days of Chicano art is that if you knew one painter, the next week you knew 20 because they'd all, they find out you were buying paintings, boom, they were on you, and still to this day, I would, because I understand, man. You
Yeah,
want to sell your paintings, and and so it was I was kind of like two steps ahead of other collectors who was kind of noticing the same thing,
mhm,
whether Chicano or not. There was plenty of non-Chicano collectors that were buying this art, but I was like, and I committed to a lot of money for it, because when I would work, sometimes I would do jobs like acting jobs and get paid partially in paintings, you
yeah,
know, if I knew it's like they were in my collection committee, and so I kept doing that and doing that, and then as I met people in the art world, they said, well, you got to show this. So, and then
yeah.
that's okay, how do you do that? And oh, you got to get sponsors. Okay, how do you do that?
You do that, right, right,
And
yeah,
they kept working on it. So finally we found sponsors and we started touring, and it was an amazing process. And then once it got out there, then the floodgates had been opened,
open, yeah,
and then everybody started getting it. So uh, it was that part was a great journey. It really was. It was. I
yeah,
mean, we started with the the San Antonio Museum, and the next stop was the Smithsonian.
yeah, yeah. I mean, to me, it's like how important, to have a museum like this and to show Chicano art and its history. I mean, when you first like to see your name, you know,
Mm-hmm.
again,
There it is.
yeah, there it is. To see your name and then these, I mean, the work is amazing. I mean, I went with my cousin and, I mean, I could have spent, hours in there. Just, it just hit me. And
Yeah.
what is the feedback that you've been getting? I mean, as the importance to having a museum like this?
Oh, I mean, it's 100% positive. It's unbelievable. It was because first of all, it's the first Chicano museum.
Yeah,
And so that meant a lot to the Chicano community. And then there was always the Chicanos from the early days. I don't know so much about now, but they were always wary about anything that comes in their path. Well, what do you mean? What do you want for this? What do I got? This? No. I was,
yeah,
when I
yeah,
first started the tour, we made a collection. It's called the Chicano Collection, and it was a print series of one big G clay print from every single artist in the show,
Wow.
and it was beautiful. And there was all this stuff, and so it was a big box set, and I gave one to every artist, and when I started giving them to, well, one artist said, "No, I don't want this." Well, why? What do you want for it?
Yeah.
I don't want anything for it. It's a free gift, if free. And there was some money involved too. I think it was $5,000 or 3,000. I can't remember. They got that, and they're always suspicious.
Right, right.
You're gonna bind me to Coors Beer or something. I don't know. And no, I said this is a free gift, and it took a long time for them to kind of be go get over their wariness, and so you can believe it or not, but here's the box. You can take it right now.
Yeah, wow. Now, are you still collecting?
I am. I thought I had been done, but there's this other generation of artists coming up that are great,
Yeah.
and I see, and also I'm trying to, encourage the museum to kind of collect earlier work so that we have, a lot of the things that we officially missed, that a collection would officially miss, because that wasn't really my taste when I was collecting, personally. But I understood it. But
Yeah.
and also it was amazing in the early days, though, those pieces were the most expensive pieces.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I could only collect if I was working. I'm a working actor, so
Yeah.
if I had money, I would buy. So it was an interesting process that went on there.
Now, when did you know that, hey, I need to get this work out for the people to enjoy and understand, what Chicano art is, instead of like,
Yeah,
as a collector, and you have it in your home, or,
yeah.
or I mean,
Well, we started putting it on tour.
okay.
We did the first tour, Chicano Visions, which was a a, a huge monumental tour. I mean, we played. I think it was 14 different big museums in 7 years, and I only played really big museums, or really the most important museums that hadn't seen any Chicano art ever.
Yeah.
Because this was the part where you walk in the front door with the trumpets blaring and the banners waving, and it wasn't like little, community museums, although they have their place. But this was the big entrance, and we had sponsors.
Okay.
And that's how the only way you could do that. The Target stores and Hewlett Packard put up the seed money to produce the first show, and then the Target store stayed with it for the entire run, because they wanted to reach that audience in a hip way.
Yeah.
And those two aims coincided. I wanted to do the same thing, and thank God for them, because it's a very expensive prospect
Oh
of
yeah, I bet. Yeah. Yeah.
touring a show. I mean, it's like, everybody, when they kind of, well, I think I'll do a tour. Oh, how much?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, like, do you plan on showing or taking your exhibit of works to other museums? I mean, because it's here in the Riverside, California, and then there's a lot of people that, of course, don't live in the vicinity where they can
Yeah,
get it, and they hear about the work.
yeah.
What about?
But it's a destination for them. We're
Yeah.
trying to promote that, a destination not only for the community that lives in proximity to, but to all over the United States, and then internationally. And we're forging those relationships as we go,
Mhm.
so that internationally, it's like, if I go to the Picasso Museum, if ever I'm in the south of France,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have been a couple. So, but also we want to forge relationships with different kinds of sized, I guess, or like-minded museums, and we'll do whatever's not on the walls. It's in storage, and it's available to go out, and an exchange program.
Yeah.
They send us a bunch of Picassos, and we'll send them a bunch of Almarazes. Kind of deal. So, but we're working on that now. So, but we haven't even rolled out the whole collection. We're about 1/7 through the collection right now.
That's in that. I mean, did you like, I know when you, as a collector, you don't realize how much you have until you like turn around and look, and you're like, okay, well,
Mm.
I have all this work. did you when was the point that you realized that, it's time to get this, displayed in such a manner?
Well, right away.
Yeah.
I mean, right away, and then because my friends in the art world say, "Well, you got to show this. This
Yeah.
does you no good under the bed." Well, how do you do that? Then I went through that process, and all of a sudden, okay, but once you get the bug, and all of a sudden the shows are very successful as they're going out there, and we broke attendance records in literally every museum we played, and these are all the biggest museums: the De Young, LACMA, Smithsonian, the Walker, all those, and it astounded them. Mostly, it astounded that there was that many Mexicans in their neighborhood, man.
Art News recognized you as on the top list of 200 on the top 200 collections in the world.
Yeah,
And what does that recognition mean to you? Because among all of your amazing career achievements that you've received, I mean,
yeah,
that's
that's a big deal,
that's a big deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, but it's really indicative of my whole life, because I was always outside the box in everything, I was ever doing, and when they, gave awards or recognized those people in that category, they list of credentials that they had, and there were CEOs of this company, and there were the directors of that company, and I was just a guy.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I got recognized by my college. I went to Cal State North, well, Valley State it was called, it
Okay.
morphed into Cal State Northridge, and I was recognized as a distinguished alumni. And one night there was a big banquet, and they invited, and there was the governor of Hawaii, and the guy who founded MSNBC, and me.
Yeah.
And in back of them, each with these long banners that hung down and listed all their accomplishments, blah, 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 governor, CEO, blah, blah, blah. And and mine said, Cheech Marin, went to college. And I just cracked up. Yeah, that's me. And that's what it is kind of right now. I mean, I was totally an outsider in this big art world. I mean,
Yeah.
totally, but who would have thunk? That
Yeah.
guy, the doper guy, and so even a lot of uh, any kind of feedback we got, the negative feedback from the community is when there was this guy running for city council or something like that, and says, well, we shouldn't be promoting stoner art. like that's the depth to which he found out what was going on. So
Right.
lost in a landslide, and so my opening remark at the museum was, "How do you like stoner art now?"
I mean, it's such an amazing thing. Like I said, I went to the museum last year, and there was a few artists that I was like, I had to stand and I couldn't understand the work. And every artist has their, meaning when they do their. Is there a certain artists that you particularly follow, or you just
I follow them all, because if I was following them, then I collected their work.
just
If I
yeah,
related to it, which I did most of them. Because you recognize it right away.
yeah.
Because your whole educational process has led to that point,
Hmm.
and your instinct about art. You can't really make any judgment until you've seen maybe 10,000 images.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you choose art? Well, I've seen 10,000 images, and I know good art from bad art.
Yeah, yeah. I just amazed by the color. I know, and I apologize. I don't remember the exact artist that you had that was showing, but it was this one scene of like this some street in LA. It looked kind of was down near maybe Dodger Stadium area or so. I know
Mhm.
I've driven through the area. I live in Orange County, but I know I've driven through the area, and I'm like this. It depicted the life. Like
Yeah,
that's what was really cool. It just like depicted the life of what's going
that's
on, what you see.
That's exactly what Chicano art is. It's I always call it news from the front. Here, this is what my neighborhood looks like.
Yeah.
This is what the people that inhabit my neighborhood look like. These are their concerns, and their most public concerns when they're fighting for their rights in the civil rights movement, or their most private concerns when they're expressing love between members of their family, or them with the world, and it ranges that, it's a very wide ranging a category,
Yeah.
that that it's not just one thing. You can look at an impressionist painting. Oh, those guys are impressionists. They paint a certain way.
Yeah.
We don't have that, but they're a Chicano in a certain way.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Chicano in itself is a voluntary category.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to declare yourself in order to be, and so I always thought that, well, if it's a voluntary category, we can have voluntary definitions too,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
voluntary rules. Because we were always the big gripe among Chicano academics or anybody that's involved in arts Chicano wise is that we were being defined by somebody else outside of the culture,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not ourselves.
Not yourselves.
So this was part of that yourself movement.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I interviewed Luis Garza
Mhm.
several months ago on his photography, and I found some of his prints depicted like some of the work that I saw in your you know paintings and stuff at the museum. But then there was some that I really was like thinking, what was this person thinking about when they did it? Because it was totally out of the
Yeah,
realm of
yeah,
it was something of and every artist has their meaning, but when I
yeah,
looked at it, and we view things in our own way, and I was like, this looks like
sure.
something I woke up of, like a hangover, and I decided to draw stuff
That's
like
exactly what it is, because you know interpretation of a painting is individual unless you have the artist standing right there next to you when you're looking at it,
yeah,
and that's just his version of it.
yeah,
The invitation to view a painting is an invitation to a discussion. I think it's this, or as part you are participating in the definition of it,
yeah, yeah,
as you see it, and your definition and your thoughts are just as valid as anybody else's.
yeah, yeah. No, that's true. I know we're going to be running out of a little time here, so I'm going to kind of, like I said, I had so many questions, and you're definitely going to have to come back because
Okay.
I got other questions for you. That's not going to fit into this thing. But it's basically definitely wanted to get you on to talk about,
Sure.
your museum. But I want to ask you, how did you get the name Cheech? I mean, I
Cheech,
know you get that question all the time, but
yeah.
I need to
There's
ask.
there's a lot of different aspects that go into that. But Cheech is short for chicharron.
Okay.
Chicharrones are deep fried pork rinds, pig pork skins,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
like Mexican potato chips, and when I came home from the hospital when I was a little baby, I was in bed. Babies are all kind of shriveled up like that when they come in. They're like little tiny. And my uncle looked in the crib and said, "Ay, parece un chicharrón, man. Looked like a chicharrón, little chicharrón." And so that was my nickname in the family, and everybody, it was in my family called me that.
Yeah.
My real name is Richard, and my mother called me Richard, but all the relatives and cousins called me Chicharron or Cheech. And the really funny thing, and Yvette, my publicist, will testify to this, that Mexicans cannot pronounce Cheech. They can pronounce chick, and they can pronounce chicharron, but they cannot put those two together with me. And so he said, so they asked me that same question. How you get your name? Es corte para chicharrón. Oh, chicharrón. Okay, chick. I swear to God, I just see that. Yvette has seen that 100 times, haven't you?
That's awesome. Okay, now I know. Like I said, I'm sure you got that question a lot.
Yeah.
Two last questions here. I'm going to read verbatim here. In 1992, you were on a Celebrity Jeopardy and
Yeah.
became the very first champion on Celebrity Jeopardy.
Yeah.
There was a People magazine article with Anderson Cooper, and he said, "You know what it's like to walk in the newsroom at a CNN after you've lost to Cheech Marin." So I'm going to ask you: are you a golfer, or I mean, are you, a Celebrity Jeopardy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watch Jeopardy all the time. It was a lifetime dream come true.
Okay.
It was really a lifetime dream because I had this group of cousins. There was four of us, and we were bright kids. Went to Catholic school, liberal arts trained, and we always tested each other and prodded each other towards the next thing.
Yeah.
And so we always used to like what watch College Bowl on every Sunday when it was on. We gathered together and watched it. It was a great, and we always, and then we formed our own little College Bowl, things, and we'd ask each other questions, and so that was, and we watched it, and so that was like a dream come true. When I first heard that they were going to have a Celebrity Jeopardy for the first time,
Yeah.
I was on the set of Golden Palace with Betty White, and I was doing that
Oh,
show. And I heard she told me, so there's something. I got on this phone to my agent and says, "Get me on that show or you're fired." Because this is the thing was Merv Griffin, who runs the shows. It was his show as well as Wheel of Fortune. We known him from before because we'd done his show, and he really liked us very, and so he okayed it, because he okayed every single person that went on that show.
Wow.
I don't know if he still does it, but it has to go through Merv.
Yeah.
And I was on there, and so it's like it was the most nervous you can get in show business,
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. But I got my rhythm, and then started hitting it.
I think it's awesome. I'm a celebrity or Jeopardy watcher. I usually end my interviews by asking my guests, is there a particular quote or saying that you go by? And is there any advice that you would give to up and coming Chicano artists or anybody in general?
It is like you tell any artist, if you want to have true art, whether you're a painter or you're a writer, you're a musician, paint what you know. Yeah. Paint what you know first. You can do other stuff, but paint what you know first. And or write what you know first, that really holds true. And so the painters were, okay, well, if that's the thing, hey, I know my street, I know my neighborhood, I know the people in my neighborhood, I know my relatives, and so that's what they painted first. They were influenced by international art because they all were educated in the university system. So they were influenced as much by Miro or Picasso or Klimt or anybody. Plus, a 3-bedroom Chicano house that's put on the side of it, because that's a Rascuache movement, Rascuache is basically taking things, elements that are not really related to art and make them art. It's called found objects in the straight world. It's that kind of, put together of these Rascuache elements,
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. I know your schedule is busy. You're shooting a movie, I believe, in New Mexico, and
we're shooting movies as we're talking right now. I'm just doing
okay. Well, okay.
Cheech goes on on Zoom.
On Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to have you back on. My
sure.
podcast. And I just want to talk more about your career. And again, just keep delving into your artworks. I'm definitely going to try to get out there and see, the exhibit again.
We're just getting ready for the first change.
Oh,
I mean, it's going. We've barely pulled out. I mean, I think the 7th of the collection is represented in the first show. Wow. So we got a lot of things to put up, and we'll do it. We're just now getting together to see which elements elements that we're gonna keep. Because people want to go see those when they come, and then the new elements every time. So it'll be a big passing parade, and that everybody can enjoy. They'll see something new every time they come.
Well, I'm definitely going to get out there again. I need to get another T-shirt.
I like the color. You're looking good.
Right?
That's you.
This is me, and I got my white sleeve to kind of some leather. I'm styling here, Cheech.
You're all hip to the jazz.
I'm hip. That's the word. I'm hip. But again, I really appreciate you being on the Hello, My Name is Dana podcast. Looking forward to getting you back on. Definitely want to talk more about your career, and I know there was a golf question I wanted to ask you, and I've been practicing my golf.
Oh yeah, what's that question?
Well, I mean, I know you had this these celebrity tournament type thing. You're pretty good golfer, as
I got okay. I don't play anymore because of back issues, and I get sciatica, and I got tired of getting it.
Yeah, and this is what you say as you're winning the golf.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, on the back, but as the ball goes flying. But no, definitely want to get you back on. Definitely want to talk some more. Hopefully one day I can meet you in person. And yeah, definitely, I appreciate your time. I know your schedule's crazy, and I really.
My pleasure.
I must say, speaking with Cheech was such a pleasure. While he is a cultural icon best known as half the comedy duo Cheech and Chong, he has been recognized as one of the top 200 collectors in the world, and his amazing collection, which is on display at the Cheech Marin Center for Chicano Art and Culture of the Riverside Art Museum in Riverside, California, is definitely a must-see. Well, that's it for this edition of Hello, My Name is Dana podcast. Please contact us at dlcarter7575@gmail.com and listen to more exciting interviews on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or visit us at hellomynameisdana.com. You can also catch the full video interview on my YouTube channel, Hello, My Name is Dana.